Okay, everybody. So what we're gonna do is figure out how to do a weighted average of this table here, and I've given you some hints with how I've set up the grids and the gray boxes. We'll get into all that in a second. You may have noticed when you got to this last "let's find that 95% tab," there's a little green arrow pointing. And mine's pointing at 85. Yours is most likely pointing somewhere else. I'm just showing you at this moment of the 20 intervals that are indicated in the spreadsheet, what percent contain the parameter that we're looking for. So right now it's 85% because there are 3 that miss it. You can see up there, it looks like number 1, number 13, and number 14 are missing it. I'm going to randomize again. Oops. And let's see. Now it's 90%, which means 2 missed it. It looks to be number maybe 3 and number 10. I'll randomize again. 95%. Which means 1 missed it. You can see it right there. And then there's 95% again. There's 85%. 95. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to hold this puppy dog down and collect some good data because you probably have a lot more than I do. And what's kind of fun is you can see that green arrow. You can really see how it's hovering a lot down there between like the 90 and 100. It glances every once in a while up to 85, very rarely up to 80 and 75%. Only got 1 of those so far. And I'll stop there. We got another 75% popped in. But you know, where is the majority happening? Well, I mean, most of them were 100%, just about the same number were 95%, and then there's some 90s, and then the 85, 80s, and 75s kind of fall off. How many trials have I run altogether? So what I'm going to do down here is I'm just going to write the word totals, and I'm going to use an Excel formula, sum, to add these up, just like we've done in the past. So I have personally run 681 trials, and when you do this formula in your spreadsheet, you'll have your number. It probably is not 681, I would imagine. But if I wanted to figure out what the average percentage was, what would I have to do? Well, I mean, if you think about it, how do you find an average? You probably, when I asked you, how do you find an average of a bunch of numbers, you'd add them all up and divide by how many there are. So in order to do that with this, well, let's see, I have 2 75%, so I'd go 75% plus 75%. Then I have 15 80%, so I'd go plus 80% plus 80% plus 80 plus 80 plus 80, 15 times. And then I'd have to add 56 85%, so then I'd have to add 104. And then hopefully at this point you're going, Sean, stop. That's ridiculous. Why would you do all that adding when you can simply multiply how many there are times the data? And that is exactly what we're going to do over here. We're going to do the data, which is the percentage, times, I'm going to call it the frequency, just because that's what you're going to call it in stats classes, frequency. Okay? And then in that cell right there, we're going to go equals that times that. So right now that says 150% because that's what you would get if you did 75% plus 75%. And if I drag that down, I then have 1200% in this category because that's what you would get if you multiply 15 times 80%. And I'm going to drag it all the way down to the 100%. And there are lots of percentages down there in the lower one, tens and 20s of thousands of percents. And that makes perfect sense, I hope, because there are so many hundreds and so many 95s and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this formula over and add all those percentages up. Now right now it's set, that's not in percent format. If you want to see it in percent format, just click up here. Now it is. So I have accumulated just about 65,000% in all of my additions. But I've done that over the course of 687 trials. So remember, thinking back to how we find an average, you add them all up and then divide by how many there are. Well, here they're all added up. Here's how many there are. So all I've got to do is divide that by that. And I'm going to do that down here. I'm just going to type the word average. And then over here, I'm going to do that divided by that. And I get 94.42%. What's kind of cool about this is you can just hold down the F9 button and let it continually add data to the actual data set. Okay, and the more data you run, obviously, the better your estimate is going to be. You're going to get a pretty good idea of what that percentage actually is. And if you were to round that number off to the nearest whole number, you'll notice it's 95%. So even though there are some instances where we end up with low numbers like 75% confidence. And sometimes we get 100% confidence. On average, you're seeing 95% confidence. I hope that helped. That's just another look at how to do a weighted average, not just in Excel, in general. You could do all of this by hand if you needed to. I just think this is the kind of stuff Excel is great for. All right, hope it helped. We'll talk to you soon.